The event is BKFC 41 Colorado, featuring a who's who of former MMA fighters. We're going to talk about the co-main and the main event. Let us start with the co-main event. It is a lightweight bout with Chad Mendes taking on Eddie Alvarez. Mark, why don't you start us off? Give us your take and your pick of Chad Money Mendes taking on Eddie Alvarez.
Yeah, it's not MMA, but as you just heard, those two names, if you're not familiar with this card, and then when you hear the names in the main event, you'll understand why we are doing this, because they're all very big figures from the world MMA, so we felt like we had to touch on it. Yeah, Chad Mendes and Eddie Alvarez in a fucking bare-knuckle boxing fight is not something I thought I would see in my life. Eddie is going to have a 3-inch height and 3-inch reach advantage. Hasn't fought in a minute. He had his little deal out in one. Took him a bit to kind of get out of that contract. We didn't know where he'd end up. We kind of thought it'd be in the MMA world. He fucking lands in BKFC. In MMA, in their primes, I would have rolled with Eddie. He was also a weight class above Chad when they were in MMA. What weight are they fighting at here? Do we know?
That's
So
a
70
great
kilograms.
question.
The fuck is 70 kilograms?
I don't fucking know.
People
That
in
sounds
Europe
like
listening and
155.
judging us so hard.
154. Yeah,
Okay.
it's 155.
So
Lightweight.
yeah, I was gonna say because I couldn't imagine Eddie getting lower than that, but I guess Chad is a little bigger these days.
Oh,
So yeah,
a
in
little.
their
A little bigger.
in their primes in MMA, I would have rolled with Eddie, and even I think in bare knuckle in their primes, I would have rolled with Eddie. But this is not his prime, and Chad Mendes, as we just briefly alluded to, looks as though he is on an entire store full of supplements. He seems to be way faster and hit way harder than he has any right to be doing. So as much as I think Eddie's actually the more skilled striker of the two and kind of the bigger dog of the two in a fight that gets ugly, I just don't get the vibe that it's going to matter here because of the physical force that current Chad Mendes appears to be and that he's looked so far in BKFC, just fucking murdering people. So I will go with Chad Mendes, sadly, because I love Eddie.
Okay. Omar, your turn.
Real quick, Mark, where do you get your odds from? Because I am stupid curious where these odds are for both fights.
So I get them usually from bestfightodds.com, which lists odds from like a bunch of different sites. I don't know if they have BKFC on there, so let's see if they do. No, it's just straight MMA. Let's see if I can find it. BKFC betting odds. Eddie Alvarez chat.
That is motherfucking bullshit.
Here we go. Is this? Yep. Wait. I fucking clicked the wrong thing. Yeah.
Thing is, I don't know. I found a couple different sites for odds. I just didn't know which ones were legit.
Wait. Oh no, that's fucking not it either. What's happening? Wow, it's really tight. I'm surprised. Chad Mendes
Right?
minus 140, Eddie Alvarez plus 120.
Yeah. I'm very surprised. I'm even more surprised for the next fight as well, a little bit, to be honest. But as far as the Eddie Alvarez-Chad Mendes fight, Chad Mendes couldn't pass a smell test if you told him how right now. Okay? I don't... As I was about to say it, I actually couldn't even complete the sentence. I have no idea if he's juicing or not. But what I can tell you is the technique that man shows on video, the power that man shows on video, and the accuracy, God help anyone, and I mean anyone, that steps in front of that man to fight him. If this was a fight about just straight up tenacity and what BKFC usually requires, right? That doggedness, that like street fight kind of mentality, I absolutely would have been going with Eddie Alvarez. But Chad Mendes' big kink right now in his game in BKFC is his cardio. And the only reason it's an issue is because Chad Mendes throws 100% in everything that he's firing in there. Like he's trying to kill somebody in that little circle. And when he wings punches or he doesn't land something, like by the end of the first round, he's breathing pretty heavy. If that happens against Eddie Alvarez and he doesn't, and he gets through the first round, I think Eddie Alvarez probably takes over that fight, to be quite honest with you. And I think he probably pieces up Chad Mendes. So Chad Mendes, if he gets the first round, I think if he works properly in the first round, I think he can get Eddie Alvarez out of there. He could probably put Eddie Alvarez to sleep. Out of the first round, I think Eddie Alvarez takes that fight pretty handedly.
So that explains why the odds are so tight. I didn't know Chad was having such cardio issues now that he's a freaking giant.
It's almost like he kind of has the flexibility to have those issues, though, right? Because no one's taking him down. No one's going to really abuse him, even with him being like a little gassed. Yeah. But he's throwing, in that first round, bro, he is throwing to try to punch shit through you. Like, he is winging shots. And again, if he doesn't land everything, even if he does, he's still going to get a little tired. But if he doesn't land stuff, the whiffing shots take shit out of him. And we've seen it. Even in his last fight, he smoked that dude. But he was he looked like he was exhausted by the end of that fight because he was hitting so hard. All right.
I'm taking Chad Mendes, round 1 knockout. That's it. I take Juice Mendes any day of the week.
Let's go.
Okay, main event, we have a quirky matchup, to say the least. Where is it here? Happening at light heavyweight. Mike Perry, former UFC welterweight, taking on former UFC middleweight champion Luke Rockhold. Omar, why don't you start us off? Give us your take and your pick.
You want the odds on this one before you go?
Please.
Perry minus 190, Rockhold plus 160.
Wow.
Yeah, I could see that. Because you got to break it down two different ways.
That's about what
right?
I expected.
It's about what I expected, because Luke Rockhold is basically entering a fucking cooking competition with none of the things he uses to cook. He has nothing. He's got a fucking fork, a knife, and a rolling pin, and that's like literally it. Please cook your most gourmet dish ever. Okay. Nothing, right? He can't kick, which is literally how he spent an entire career winning. He can't grapple, which is also how he spent the other half of his career winning. He can only box, which he has spent none of his career doing properly. So, and at that, he has to bare knuckle box, which is a totally different thing than boxing with gloves on, because he does have to worry about breaking his hands. He has to punch a certain way. And there's going to come a point where even when you do punch a certain way, after the first round or two, your hands are going to look like they're going to look like balloons. And it's going to suck to use them. And you can see in every bare knuckle fight that there is, it gets progressively more difficult to stay in the fight, and from both ends, because everyone's absorbing damage in that fight on their hands. And you just can't really use them the same way as the fight progresses. Mike Perry is the dude that's like, I don't give a fuck. And in kind of the best way necessary for BKFC, which is why I'm assuming Mike Perry is giving up a good amount of height here. I'm assuming Mike Perry is giving up a good amount of weight here. I'm assuming Mike Perry is giving up a good amount of length here. And I don't think it's really going to matter, because this is Mike Perry's domain, man. Like, he knows how to make these fights nasty. He knows how to make these fights non-technical. He knows how to fight in BKFC. And I think I don't think Luke Rockhold is prepared to take it to the streets. I know he's nasty. I know he's a dog. That dude has let his arm rip before in the middle of certain things. We saw him get his ass whooped against Costa, and we could say what we want about some of his body language in that fight, but at no point did he jump out of the ring looking for an out. That man was in there, took his ass beating, tried to give a little bit back, got petty in the end by pouring blood all over Costa. But I know he can get gritty. I don't think he's going to out-grit Mike Perry in this specific rule set and scenario. So I'm going to go with Mike Perry here by unanimous decision.
Okay, Mark.
Yeah, so to answer your question on the size, 5 inches of height and 6 inches of reach before Luke Rockhold.
Fucking hell. Jesus
You
Christ.
said a lot of what I want to say. I don't fucking know. There's another one where if it was MMA, the very obvious pick would be Luke Rockhold. But it's not that. It's BKFC, and Mike Perry is very good in this style of fighting. As you said, it's kind of his domain. He was almost bred for this BKFC. And also, as you said, Luke Rockhold doesn't exactly love to throw his hands. So maybe being forced to use his hands and not being able to rely on the kicks will make Luke show us something new and surprise us. Like maybe it's just that his kicks are so good that when he has them, he's like, well, I might as well use these over my hands. But when he doesn't, maybe we're going to be like, oh, shit, his hands are decent. I don't know. I do think that 5 inches of height and 6 inches of reach is pretty fucking enormous, and Mike Perry has never been too great at navigating reach disadvantages. He will get stuck on the outside in fights. But I just can't shake the comfort level in BKFC for Perry. If it was like 3 inches of reach, I would absolutely go Perry. The 6 inches really has me like nearly flipping a coin. But I'm just going to have to go with the tried and true bare-knuckle brawler and not the guy who I feel like is fighting somewhere he shouldn't be fighting. So I'll go with Mike Perry also.
Yeah, we're unanimous here. I echo all the same sentiments and hesitations about the size of Rockhold being, a true weight class above Mike Perry. Mike Perry's like 5'10". Luke Rockhold's like 6'2", at least.
6'3".
6'3".
Yep.
That being said, I see Mike Perry getting all up inside Luke Rockhold's grill. Yeah, and I think Omar alluded to it earlier. Luke is not going to have any kicks to keep Perry that much further away, and he's going to be very much, I think, he's going to be a fish out of water to an extent, and I think he's going to get cracked. I'll say that Mike Perry gets him out of there. I'll say, how many rounds is this thing? I'll just say middle of the fight.
I think they're only like
6
3
rounds, 3 rounds.
I honestly can't remember. They usually don't go very far.
Round 2. I'll say round 2. However many rounds there are, I'll say 2. Round 2. And,
I will say
it'll be weird. It's gonna be really weird.
A little bit. But they're all a little sideshowy, those fights, and I still love them.
Always are.
I still think they're fun.
Yeah.
I will say the promotion to this shit though has been absolutely hilarious. Like, if you haven't watched any of the promo for this Mike Perry, Luke Rockhold shit, this shit is gold.
That's the entire other reason of why Mike Perry is made for this.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
What did he say to Rockhold? He's like, you look like your mother makes your bed still.
Yo, he goes, your mom wants me to win. Your own mom wants me to win this fight. And
what was his rationale?
It's because
so you hang him up and stop doing this fighting thing, so you go home to her.
Yep.
Oh my God.
I love. Did you see when he put the booger on him at the weigh-ins?
Dude.
And he goes, now you're known as the booger man.
Mike Perry can be so cringe, but in the most endearing way.
Oh, I fucking love Mike Perry, dude.
Dude,
he's such a wild man. God.
Do you see how lost Luke Rockhold is in the sauce, though?
Oh, yeah. Dude, his brain shut down with the mom.
Man has no idea how to talk shit.
His comeback. So Mike Perry said the whole thing, your mom wants me to win, so you stop fighting, so you go home to her. Then he got no rise out of Luke. Luke just stared at him. So then he hit him with the, you look like she still does your laundry, like she still makes your bed, blah, blah. Still nothing. He says something else, and Luke goes, nah, I've been doing that on my own for 20 years.
20 years, bitch.
Bro, we're not being serious. We don't need to know how many years it's been since you fucking moved out. Like.
But the best thing though was the conviction he said that shit. Like if Mike Perry wasn't saying, you know what? It was like Mike Perry. It was like Mike Perry was us though when we talk about like on the marquee, and Luke Rockhold was one of these chooches in the comments. Like
Luke said it
delusional
with the seriousness of like, I'll fucking kill you. It was like, I've been doing that by myself for 20 years.
Make my bed.
Okay, Luke.
It was such a bad response.
Make my own bed.
When you can't let Mike Perry continue to talk shit because you've now thrown him off of his path,
You could tell even Mike Perry was sitting there, and he's like, "Is this motherfucker going to say anything, or do I just have to keep doing all the talking?" He's just staring at him.
God bless Mike Perry, though, because if it wasn't for him, there would be no real promotion for this fight.
Oh, Mike Perry's
It's
the best.
so good.
Can't wait.
It's so fun.
He's my
Looking
favorite
forward
black
to it.
fighter.
I am. Yes. 100%, man. I wish him the best. I hope Mike Perry makes all the money doing this. This is his calling.
Oh.
Yes.
Win or lose, I think he makes a bag. But I honestly think he's the highest paid fighter in BKFC.
Is he really?
I would imagine so. No one brings in eyes. No one I even think knows who's in BKFC but fucking Mike Perry.
Well, there are 3 former UFC champions on this card.
No, on this card. But Mike Perry is BKFC.
3?
Mike Perry's
2.
been in BKFC.
Chad was an interim, wasn't he?
Yep. Did he fight for an interim, or was he an interim?
He might have
I
fought
don't think
for
Chad ever got a belt, dude.
No, I don't think so. I think it was a vacant interim when he fought Connor. I don't think he had it already.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was vacant because it was supposed to be Aldo. Yeah. No, he never had a belt.